Let's turn to the big story of the week, which is the Coronavirus Recovery Commission. I'm looking for you to sort of set up, Rob Bluey, how it came to pass, what Heritage was up to, and people who want to read the Coronavirus Recovery Commission can go to hughforheritage.com and get it. But tell us how it was born and how it was operated.
Well, Hugh, we are so excited. Yesterday began with Vice President Pence doing an exclusive call with Heritage Foundation members, over 8,000 of them, listening to the Vice President and his words of praise and thanks for the work that Heritage has done here with the Coronavirus Commission. It's certainly something that it was a big undertaking by the Heritage Foundation. Back in early April, when we saw an opportunity to bring together leaders throughout, former government officials, medical doctors, those who have experience in public health and small businesses, to really put forward recommendations that our government leaders could take and then hopefully utilize as we reopen our country again. We know that the private sector works a lot faster and more efficiently than the government, so to rely on government to have these commissions wasn't necessarily an option given the speed at which we were moving. So Heritage decided to step in, and that's why we created the National Coronavirus Recovery Commission, and it's why your listeners today can get the executive summary exclusively at hughforheritage.com. So we are excited about what the road ahead is. We think that this is a positive opportunity for Americans to get back to work, to do so safely and expeditiously. But yes, 265 recommendations, a lot in there.
I'm going to be talking with Charmaine Yost and George Allen later in the hour about this. The number one issue for me, Rob Bluey, is what are we going to do with public education? Now, the commission urges parents to support school plans to reopen. I believe that is obviously true, though there may be some teachers and administrators who may have to be absent from the campuses, but because of their age and underlying condition. But this is, to me, obviously true, and I'm glad that you put it in the 15 actions the individual can take. Indeed, I'm glad you have a section of the report set aside for individual action. This isn't about other people doing other things at levels of the government not connected to you. It's about what you as a citizen ought to do.
Hugh, you're absolutely correct. Kay James, who is the Heritage Foundation president and also chairman of the commission, made it clear from the very beginning that there would need to be a heavy emphasis on what individuals, the private sector, and civil society can do. This is an all-of-society approach. It can't be just led by the government. We've seen the contrasting plans. Let's face it, the Heritage Foundation believes that the government that's closest to you knows best, and that's why our plan is focused on a local level and state level. It's not a centralized, top-down model, as you've seen from some Democrats. So I think that when it comes to education, you're speaking directly to me as a father of two elementary school kids. I know what the impact was on their education, and I think that as best as parents have tried to manage and cope with the situation, when it comes to the fall, we really need to have our schools prepared and have it in a situation where the students are back in the classroom and learning. It's truly incumbent upon them, and if they don't, then I think we're going to have some long-term consequences in terms of the learning for this age demographic that's going through school right now.
I'm also thinking about the least resourced families in America, people with one parent, people with perhaps no parents and being raised by grandparents, people on limited incomes. They absolutely need the public schools to be open, and they need their teachers there. And if there are older teachers, we may be paying them not to teach, Rob Bluey, but that's better than shutting the entire school system because they might get sick.
That's right, Hugh. And the thing is many schools did transition to a virtual education. I believe there were about a quarter of schools in this country that didn't. So there were many students who didn't get any instruction. My two kids got an hour a day, from 9:30 to 10:30. They had some formalized virtual learning with their school, and then they were on their own for the rest of the day. It was up to my wife and I, and we are a two-parent household, so it's a little bit easier for us to manage than if you are a single parent and maybe you have to be in a service job and out and working. So you're absolutely correct. Our schools need to figure out a plan to do so, which, again, is why our National Coronavirus Recovery Commission is recommending that. And things like making sure that doctors' offices are reopened and providing those elective surgeries and those preventative care measures to keep our country healthy. some of the steps that governors took really seem to challenge the bounds of what they were allowed to do with their executive authority. And that's another area we think we need to prepare for if we are faced with this situation in the future, making sure that we understand the limits that are placed on government.